This is the story of the forgotten twin of the moon god. Are you ready? Let's go back in time. Long ago, ancient Sumerian texts told of more than one moon orbiting our Earth. We know the main one as the moon god Nanna, whose name may have inspired the name of the modern moon day. And because of this, most historians today have never even heard of her. However, fragments of ancient carvings and other mysterious texts have survived throughout history, which seem to point towards the existence of a second moon. According to NASA and other space agencies, at one point, Earth may have indeed had not just one moon, but at least two, possibly as many as four. Because of this, many cultures developed a close bond with the moon, became a deity, a life-giver, and was worshipped for its power over fertility. They knew that the planet Mars would rise in the east at the same time every day. In fact, some of them saw the planet as a positive force in their lives. For example, the ancient Assyrians believed that Nergal was a god of good fortune, and that he could bring wealth and happiness to those who worshipped him. They even built a temple in his honor called the House of Fortune, and so they used this to create a calendar. The Babylonians also associated Mars with war and violence. They created the dark moon to explain the sometimes destructive forces of nature. The ancient people were superstitious, and they believed that everything that happened to them was caused by the gods. When something bad happened, they blamed the dark moon. When something good happened, they praised the bright moon. Do you believe it was a real object in the sky? Do you think it was a figment of the ancient people's imagination? Or do you think there's something else going on here? And if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe. And thank you for watching. This theory is supported by the fact that there are no physical remains of the dark moon. If it had been a real object in the sky, we should have been able to find evidence of it. They believed that the planet Mars was the god of war and that it brought bad luck to those who were fighting in battles. It may have been a real object in the sky, a figment of the ancient people's imagination, or something else entirely. We may never know for sure. But one thing is certain: the dark moon will continue to fascinate people for years to come. Of course, this made sense to ancient people. After all, Mars is the god of war in Roman mythology. From ancient myths to modern horror stories, the concept of a sinister celestial body lurking in the shadows has always had a certain allure. In recent years, the idea of a dark moon has become popular in fiction. There are now several books and films that feature a dark moon as a central plot device. These stories often explore the darker aspects of humanity and the potential consequences of scientific hubris. There are a few theories to explain the disappearance of the dark moon, whether it is a real astronomical phenomenon or a product of human imagination. The concept of a dark moon will continue to capture the imaginations of people for years to come. One theory is that the ancient people didn't imagine the dark moon. Instead, they saw a real moon that was twice as far away as our current moon. Because of its distance, the dark moon would have been much smaller in the sky than the bright moon. Over time, the people of Mesopotamia began to see the dark moon as a separate entity from the bright moon. They began to worship the bright moon and see the dark moon as an evil spirit. Eventually, the dark moon was seen as nothing more than a harbinger of destruction. This theory is supported by the fact that ancient texts often describe the dark moon as being red or blue. These colors are often used to describe planets in the sky. This suggests that the ancient people were actually seeing a real object in the sky and not just imagining it. So it's not hard to see how the ancient people might have connected the two. When ancient people saw a second moon in the sky, they likely thought that the moon god had a twin. Of course, this would make sense given that most gods had some kind of counterpart, like light and dark, good and evil, male and female. As the centuries passed, the people of Mesopotamia forgot about the planet Mars and the second moon. It wasn't until the 19th century that astronomers rediscovered the planet Mars, and even then, no one made the connection between the planet and the ancient god Nergal. The concept of a dark moon would fit perfectly into this type of mindset. They are the Yazidis, ancient religious group who live in the Middle East. The Yazidis believe that Nergal is the supreme god, and that he is the creator of the universe. They also believe that he is the embodiment of both good and evil, and that he is responsible for both the joys and sorrows of life. The Yazidis have been persecuted for their beliefs throughout history, but they have managed to survive. And today, there are around 1 million Yazidis in the world. Scientists discovered unusual orbital patterns in our satellite. It looks like something crashed into our moon billions of years ago. The impact created a large crater that eventually filled with ice. That's why the side of the moon facing away from us is covered with craters, but the side facing us is strangely smooth. Scientists think that something big about 2/3 the size of our moon crashed into it long ago. At the time, the debris from the crash formed a ring around the Earth, and this ring eventually turned into our moon. But this is where things get strange. Scientists noticed that the composition of the moon is very different from the Earth's core. They think that the moon's core is actually liquid, while the Earth's core is solid. But why is there a chance that the second moon, the one that crashed into ours, was actually made of pure iron? Would that explain why it's liquid, while the rest of the moon is solid? And is this dark moon just another piece of the puzzle? For example, Siberian folklore talks of a blue second moon that appears once every 300 years. It's also said that the last time it was seen, people were frozen to death. It was said that he ruled over the underworld with an iron fist, and that no one could escape his domain. But Nergal wasn't just a fearsome god. He was also associated with healing and rebirth. In fact, there was even a festival held in his honor, called the Festival of Healing. It was a celebration of the power of the moon to heal the sick and wounded. Today, we know that the moon does have some effect on our health. For example, we know that the lunar cycle can affect a woman's menstrual cycle. We also know that the moon can affect the tides of the ocean. So it is not hard to see how ancient people might have believed that the moon had healing powers. There are similar legends in Finland and northern Sweden too. God! But what's less known is his twin sister, whose name was spelled Nergal-Zin, the dark moon. The spiral shapes represent the orbits of the planets, including Earth's moon. But there is one marking in particular that stands out. There is a ring around the sun with 3 dots on it. Many believe these 3 dots are supposed to represent 3 moons. This would certainly explain why the manuscript is so strange. Perhaps it was written by someone who had observed not 1 but 2 moons in the sky. And since the Babylonian Empire conquered many lands beyond their own, perhaps they took the secret of the dark moon with them wherever they went. It's believed she was associated with the planet Mars and was a symbol of chaos and destruction. Ancient texts say that unlike her sister, the bright moon, who controlled the tides and the cycles of time, Nergal-Zin could only be seen once every 300 years. And when she did appear in the night sky, she would bring nothing but madness and destruction. Some texts said that when Nergal-Zin came out, the world would end. Others said she caused great floods, and still others said she brought an ice age. What we do know is that she seemed to coincide with some of history's greatest collapses, like Atlantis, the Indus Valley, the Mayan city of Teotihuacan, and even the fall of Rome. But long before people stopped writing about Nergal-Zin, the Babylonians, who ruled over Sumeria around 2000 BCE, they banned all writings about the dark moon. What's more, some believe that the strange markings on the ancient Voynich Manuscript are actually diagrams of our solar system. But the mystery doesn't stop there. In ancient times, people often associated the phases of the moon with the human reproductive cycle. In ancient Mesopotamia, Nergal was considered the god of the underworld, the place where the souls of the dead went after they died. Nergal was also associated with the planet Mars. In fact, the ancient Babylonians used the planet Mars to help them keep track of time. But not all of the ancient people's beliefs about Nergal were negative. Unfortunately, over time, the memory of Nergal began to fade. However, there is one group of people who never forgot about Nergal. So what happened to the dark moon? Did the ancient people imagine it? Or did the Babylonians really ban all writings about it? Another theory is that the dark moon was a figment of the ancient people's imagination. Ultimately, there is no proof of what exactly happened to the dark moon. The idea of a dark moon has captured the imaginations of people for centuries. Overall, the idea of a dark moon continues to be a powerful one. Alright folks, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think really happened to the dark moon.